a slight out-of-body experience right now, but I'm sure I'll join us later.
Yeah. Okay. Avoiding legal snags by telling people they're being recorded. All right. You're being recorded.
Cool.
Welcome to episode 0.
Yay.
Your host, Mr. Leaves. Very special guest, Ly Faulk.
Yay.
Poet, author, tarot reader, artist, photographer. What else? What else goes on that list?
That's a pretty comprehensive list. I don't think of myself as a photographer or an artist, but I'll take it.
I've seen some things you've created and some derived from photos you yourself took. So I think that's the definition of a photographer, right?
Sure. Why not? We don't have to meet any gatekeeping standards here.
Especially not with this topic. Maladaptive daydreaming.
Yeah.
So I had never heard of this.
Really?
Diagnosis. No.
Well, it's more of a symptom. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a lot of times it's, induced by trauma of some kind, and it's just you build like these little fantasy worlds and fantasy scenarios, and you spend so much time in that place that you tend to let other areas of your real life kind of fall apart a bit. And I've definitely gone through periods like that. And there's even been periods of my life that I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's connected to that or if it's all just like different coping mechanisms you pick up along the way.
So at this point, is it like stepping into a mental holodeck? You've got some presets. You're like, okay, calling up the return to 1995, how I would have done it. Like what is it? What is it like?
Yeah, there is a lot of presets, and it. We're talking about that episode of Star Trek, Hollow Pursuits. And I feel like that's a good comparison because when they go into the holodeck, there's not like much of a plot, right? They're just this idyllic place, and there's all these people who like really admire him, Barclay, the character who's doing this. And they're all just kind of there, and that's what it's like for me. Like, I know I've met some other people who come up with like really complex scenarios. They'll have like a whole plot line, or they'll like act out with like characters from shows that they like. They'll, write an episode in their head, basically. But for me, it's more like that. Just go to a idyllic place and not much happens. There's not much to describe other than like it's nice there. What was the question?
Is it become symptomatic when it interferes with like the quiet enjoyment of your own life?
Yeah.
Because for the most part, it sounds like daydreaming, and it sounds like the writing process, which I always tell people. They say, "Well, what do you write on? Do you use Scrivener? Do you write by hand? Do you write in Word?" And I say, I don't. I mean, I transcribe, I draft in those, but I write in my daydream.
Right.
I keep running like all the time. And a lot of times it does start as like fan fiction or some scenario in real life or whatever. And the more progressive elaboration occurs, like on, day 8 of daydreaming, that where I kind of rewind it. Okay, let's start from the top. Okay, this is the really cool thing I do, and there'll be like little revenge fantasies or, ego boost ones. But then eventually things kind of delta, and it's no longer the source material, and it's no longer me as some character in it. Like it kind of dissociates from however I started that pleasing fantasy and turns into that. And I read a lot of books where like it's fairly apparent somebody was like, I'll show them how cool I am. I pretty much every tweet I think that's been attributed to men right women is some element of a guy's like, I'll show them, I'll get revenge upon women, and I'll be awesome in this book. And it's really your stand-in, this terrible Woody Allen, Tom Cruise, like, I just get to play Mr. Awesome. And they all love me, even though it's amazing, Are your maladaptive fantasies usually like ego gratifying? Like, is it like we all know, or you're faced with a terrible problem and you solve it? You're like, yeah, like, let me in. I know this is super vulnerable.
No, that's the whole idea, right?
We're not going to talk about that. That's fine.
No. So so I think you'd asked me, like, is the difference that, like, does it interfere with your daily life? And it does interfere with the daily life, but it does interfere with my writing, like, big time, because I'll come up with a story idea, I'll tell myself the story, and I do not see the point of writing it down. Like, I'm bored with it now. Let's move on to the next thing. So that's really hard to, like, finish long pieces for me, because, like, I'll have it so detailed out in my head. I don't care if anybody else reads it, But yeah, I guess they're kind of like ego driven, but they're more like for comfort. It's more just like a place to escape to. Sometimes it's ego driven. Like I have a post-apocalyptic one that I like to go to sometimes, and I'm, of course, like the herb lady, or like the herb whatever, doing who knows a little bit more about medical stuff than the other people. Like, that's a good one for me. I like to do that. Other people see me as knowledgeable and helpful.
Right. I mean, the other day you said something like big NPC energy. And I was like, totally, because that's all I've ever wanted. I want to decentralize myself from whatever narrative I'm telling. Like, just let me, I'm in the shop, I got the stuff, I've got some fetch quests for you, but ultimately the fate of figuring everything out, you can have it. I'm good here.
All I've ever wanted is a simple life. I don't want to go on a quest or a mission. I want to have a little cottage by the lake and a dog, and maybe I'll see some people every few months. That's that's really my go-to fantasy, is that I'm in like this log cabin alone in the woods, nobody else, and maybe I'm writing, maybe I'm reading, but I'm probably just sitting by the lake. It sounds really boring.
But they're positive experiences, like these fantasies, other than the fact you might miss, like, I don't know, an important phone call or a job interview, or neglect your friends, not manage relationships that actually have conflict, because it's easier to have the fantasy one. But other than that, they're pleasant. It's not like a go into a pit of negative self-talk where your fantasy is just like there to put you down. Because I do those.
I do those too, but I call it something different. So I think you had said something about, like, you didn't think in thoughts so much.
Right.
And I was thinking about that later, and I realized that I'm constantly arguing with people in my head, like, all the time. And sometimes it'll be like my mom, because she said something that annoyed me, or somebody else, but most of the time it's like the spaceless person who doesn't really exist, who's like an amalgam of every Reddit comment I've ever heard. And I'm like debating with them about pretty basic, like, fundamental stuff to who I am, like about my spiritual ideas, my political ideas. Did that project I just released, is that worth reading? I'm just like constantly defending myself against this other part of my brain who wants to, like, yell at me about stupid shit.
That's just trolling you.
Yeah, exactly. My own brain trolling me. So I guess it's similar. I don't put it in the same category though, because it's not like I separate from reality when that happens. It's just like background, just scrolling, just constantly. But the main part, I think, that makes it maladaptive for me is it's just like demotivating. It's just like, I don't want to do any of that because it's better up here. And it doesn't matter what it is, like how important it is or not important it is, it's still just, it's not as good.
Does it start to get into your regular dreaming? I mean, are you a dreamer, a nighttime sleeping dreamer is what I mean? Do you find that you're in some of these narratives in those dreams?
Sometimes I do, like, dream a lot, and I remember my dreams a lot, and there's like three categories to me. One is like pure nonsense. That's the one I have the most frequently. Another one is where I'm working on something and I'm in like this big elaborate scenario. And sometimes it's made of like escalators, sometimes it's made of roller coasters, sometimes it's made of roads. But I'm having to navigate this enormous structure to accomplish something. And I feel like that's some astral projection stuff going on, maybe. That would be hard to get into, I think. And then like the third is sort of like, where it's like stuff that I've been like daydreaming about coming in, and it'll be intermixed with some prophetic things. And that's how I know it's more of a prophetic dream than a nonsense dream, because it'll be like the two merge. And they, like I wake up with like remembering sort of like the plot, as opposed to the nonsense dream when it's just a jumble.
So if you've got maladaptive daydreams, are you supposed to stop? Like if you're going to see like a trauma specialist, underlying, you say symptom, so you address the underlying causes. Does it go away? Is it something you're supposed to get rid of? Because I don't know.
I don't know that either. I like it too. I wish it wasn't so demotivating for me in like so many aspects of my life, but I do like it, and it is a source of comfort to me. I've never talked to a therapist about it, so I honestly don't know the answer to that question. Because like, I just had some bad experiences with therapy lately, and so I've just sort of decided not to do that anymore.
I'm
go out on my own.
In between people as well. But this one time I did do kind of an interesting process method where I had articulated not exactly a rolling. I mean, I don't really know like how to define like fantasy. I mean, you've got an interior life. Any thought that's not connected to some literal matter, is that a fantasy? Like, I'm not really sure. But for a long time, I've had kind of personifications that kind of exist in me, and I can sense them around. I don't have them named. It's not like a DID thing kind of. There's like, I don't know how to explain it. My vocabulary for articulating my form of metacognitive function, it's just really hard.
It is,
I can sometimes feel a personification living kind of behind anxiety, like past some sort of membrane of identity, like a sense of terribleness, and maybe something similar to like a sleep paralysis, demon, kind of that sense of, oh, that's just bad. Well, are you getting a clear image of it saying something bad or intrusive thought? No, just all the bad feels. It is just bad feelings that don't even have words. Just, I know it's terrible. And so my therapist said, okay, so sit in your seat and see that seat opposite you. That thing is there, and address it with any questions you have out loud.
Okay.
And then you're going to go sit in that chair and answer.
So you have to play both parts.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And it wasn't like really a breakthrough moment. I don't know if I was like really jiving with it. It was hard. I didn't feel silly. I just have all these like scene missing, reel missing. Like I don't know 404 errors in my mind. So I asked her the question, like, why do you want to destroy me? Like, why do you want to hurt me? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And when I took the seat over there, they answered back, I don't know. And the number of times I've said, I don't know to my therapist, they get pretty annoyed. Well, sit with that. How does it make you feel about not knowing? I don't know. I'm not being dodgy. I don't have the lexicon to go into it, but I don't know how to ask somebody to go deeper with it. But in terms of dream places and running living daily fantasy with you, I struggle with understanding neurology, my creative self, because we write fiction. We're supposed to have these stories in our head, and then like, no, it's something metaphysical and real, and so just gonna like, like how do you how do you cope with it? You said in the interaction of maladaptive dreaming to your nighttime, your sleeping dreams, you know, that sense of like some of these are nonsense, some of these are true, some of these are processing conflict in my life, and then some are special. And I don't even have the tool set to examine any of those kind of distinctions, so I usually just accept it as both. This is nonsense, and it's also something paranormal, and let's just let that ride.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of that happening too, because like your conscious mind can't necessarily process if there is something spiritual going on, then it's just going to come out as just spiders and shopping carts, and I don't know. That's just how it is. And you may, some part of you may understand it on some level, but your conscious mind, forget about it. Like, it's just, it's not for that.
Right. Maladaptive daydreaming. So when did this start for you, or is this just something you've been doing like your whole childhood has been kind of dominated by this, like?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely like since childhood. And a lot of times it was based on like movies and TV shows that I watched and books that I watched. And it wasn't until I got older that I started like developing my own kind of like, where would I really like if everything else were equal, where would I want to be? What would I want to be doing? If I could just wave a wand. But yeah, when I was like a little kid, like I was basically lived on the bridge of the Enterprise.
Oh yeah, spent a lot of time there myself.
And yeah, and I was drawn to that post-apocalyptic scenario that I talked about very young as well. That one, and then there's like a lot of I guess like sex and romance, you know, once I became of age for that to factor in. Yeah, like a lot of that, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff that you know, TNG just didn't show.
Right, exactly. Gotta fill in the blanks. Yeah, when I was like that age, I had it bad for Worf, and I had a little bit for Riker too. Yeah, and now that I'm an adult, I think Worf is such an ass. I hate him so much.
Why do you hate Worf?
Because he's really judgy of other people. He's a terrible fucking dad. Like, I hate that.
Yeah.
And just like really controlling, and like how he was with Jadzia is, I don't know. I just don't like it.
Yeah. It's one of those funny things. Like, I think he would have been an asshole if he was raised with his biological parents as well. Like, I mean, there's a lot going on with him constantly trying. Just how do you know he's a Warrior Society Klingon? Because he's going to tell you. It's going to come up within the first few seconds of any conversation. How's the tea? It's not as good as Klingon tea. It's like, okay, got it.
Yeah.
But like other Klingons you meet, they're like, yeah, you know, you already know I'm a Klingon. I've got other stuff that I'm interested in, like these albums, you know, like they have their own stuff. They fixated on trying to prove that he's Klingon enough.
And he really romanticizes it to a point, like, where it's just, oh my God, guy. Like, and every other Klingon is just like, whatever. Like, yeah, we care about our honor. Yeah, we want to die and go to Stovacor. But yeah, he just like really clings to it. And yeah, I think it's because he grew up on Earth.
Yeah, I don't think he has much of like, he's not really in touch with his actual personality. So it's his big front, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
When you're like that, you're kind of intolerable to be around until you get it figured out.
Yeah, I can vouch for that.
People tried, you know, people definitely reached out to him, you know.
Yeah. I'm getting the point in my watch through now where him and Deanna is hooking up, and I'm just okay, whatever you say, guys.
Well, I think, you know, alone outside of the cameras, who knows who Worf really is? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe there's a different side to Worf, a softer side. They should have explored that more. That's what I was like. Ideally, that's what would have happened when he married Jadzia. You know, we would see like a softer, more romantic side, more vulnerable. But I don't think we did.
Well, I mean, very few characters got like a true inner life, right?
Yeah.
And that's a shame, because the type of whatever alien of the week storytelling, you have plenty of room to toss a few more bones to the other characters. Mm-hmm. They had a few. Ro, you know,
yeah, loved her.
Yeah, she got a lot of screen time and a lot of personality, where you can actually write someone who's got a bit more edge.
Yeah.
She doesn't agree with Starfleet. She's not all kumbaya. She's like, well, I get it. Great rules, but like, you just sat by while we've been massacred again and again. So
yeah.
Yeah, so I liked her.
That prime directive is sometimes a little problematic, isn't it?
So they give her a lot. You know, Picard, so much. But then there's just a lot of gaps where you just wonder, like, why does this character even here? They have like no dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Geordi is like really guilty of that. Like I've been noticing lately. Like Geordi, like there's just not. It's just flat.
Do you believe that? And the only times they really let something out, and no disrespect, you know, we love Geordi, right? Mm-hmm. You know, we love this legacy of a character out there, but his holodeck romance with a real woman, and then coming to meet her and like not saying, oh, I've been spying on your profile and I know all your likes because of this. Then really being pissy and entitled to
like he gets mad at her. Like, how dare you? I skipped that episode now. I can't do it.
She acts kind of, I mean, she's horrified, rightly, and then later it's like, well, you know, it's okay, but you know, I am totally married. And I think, don't they get married like in one of the movies or something? They eventually get. All I know is that I could never come back from that. Yeah. That would creep me out so bad. And don't talk about how toxic, like, left to his own devices, out with the other crew, no one to keep him in line. This is what he does.
Yeah. Yeah, that is like hugely problematic. I wish they had like given him more. Like, it's just a waste of LeVar Burton in some instances.
For sure. Yeah. Episodes which he probably directed. He's like, this would be good.
Yeah, there's so much, like, you watch it now and it's like so apparent that it was written with like a late 80s, early 90s sensibility. And like, on the one hand, it's like, oh, you know, we've come a long way since then. But they're depicting like the 21st century, and there's some things that I would like it if it weren't a problem anymore. Like Barclay's, when people are talking to him about his holo addiction, they have never heard of anxiety before. Like, what is that? Even Deanna doesn't handle it.
They're such a dick to Barclay. Yeah. That's why I love his episodes the most, because generally speaking, bridge crew, like, unimpeachable personalities. They have the little quirks, but they're gonna save the day, and it's like
they're gonna learn their lesson.
Imagine how intolerable that would be to be around these know-it-all assholes who gleefully make fun of someone that's also a member of the crew. It's not like it's even just some civilian on the crew or someone that passed by. It's like, you work with him every day.
Yeah, and Geordi, who you will usually see in such a good light, he's the worst to him.
Oh, the worst. The worst. Like he's threatened, you know?
Yeah. Really?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because Barclay's better at engineering, you think?
Well, I think Geordi is a control freak, and other than Data and like recognizing like, yeah, this person is technically more savvy, like, I think anybody coming in there, he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like an IT guy, like, hands off. No, I have the admin credential. It's like, yeah, but I'm just asking you to change the background. No, I got it. So you don't need all that power. Like, go with it. You can trust other people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a problem for him.
Shouldn't be in a command position. Command, except from the original series, to me is like knowing what your team is capable of, and you don't have to know it yourself. But if you trust them, you can delegate and know that they're going to do the best they can, and they'll give you inputs, and you can make another decision based on it. Like, I think the Star Trek leadership model is the antithesis of singular, awesome guy fiction. Like Tom Cruise could never be a Starfleet captain.
Right.
Will Smith can't. You can't do it. You have to go in and say, okay, I need my science officer. I need a head of engineering. Please tell me what's going on. We're going to talk about the risks at a level I can understand, because I don't know how to do engineering. And together we're going to get a consensus and then make a decision. You know, it's remarkable that you can have a leadership role in some form of media that's not at all this just, I know what to do and it's going to be tough and it's, you know, it's death or this, and you just have to plow through. Like, no, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I always thought Trek presented a really cool leadership model, and not a lot of people talk about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of focus on the military structure and how problematic that can be sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think I've heard people talk about that other aspect.
I've talked about that at job interviews.
I would hire you based off that. Oh, I get to chat about Star Trek all day? Cool.
But yeah, there's so many problems. And they only explore them a couple times. Like, yes, it's post-scarcity. Everyone follows their own heart, and what you want to be good at, you can be good at and do. But then there's Barclay, you know, and then there's Picard's glimpse into the life not lived if he hadn't taken a stab into, you know, got an artificial heart when he was a young person. And where is he? Oh, he's a, you know, whatever planetary, I think he was into maps, or I don't know, it was something like not critical to the.
Yeah, he was a junior grade officer. I remember that.
And when he's like, oh, I've got an idea. We're all equals here. They're like, yeah, shut up. You had your chance to leadership and you missed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate that view too. Like, you only get one shot. You can never change your mind or try to change minds ever again. That's it. You're locked in. What the fuck? I know you're not like a huge fan of DS9, but that is like one of the things that draws me to it. Is there's a little bit more. They were going from like episodic to continuous. Is that right? Like continuous plotline. So you do get like a little bit more character development and character depth. So that is something to be said for the other one.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean, TNG just fails on having the characters at the end be different than they were at the beginning. Yeah. That to me is long form. That's a rule. You want to do it, and then have the show or that plot be what changed them. Yeah, and that's why I really like Enterprise. Like, for all of its problems, bright-eyed, like, hi, we're gonna explore the galaxy, isn't this great? So like, oh, we're fucked. They're terrible, and we're outgunned, and everyone hates us, and I keep messing up with time. So he's so haggard. It's terrible. When I was a kid, I was really into Abraham Lincoln, and I had this photo bio of him. It was like 10 or 11, and I had these like, what did he look like when he started, and then what did he look like, prior to death at the end of his presidency. Right. And just like he aged, 10 million years, looks terrible. And that's how you're supposed to. I think that's the weight of leadership. Yeah. That's the weight of a plot change.
Yeah, exactly. Of like going through 4 years of a fucking terrible war. Yeah. And yeah, Picard should have aged 5 years after like the one where he's kidnapped by the Romulan, or no, the Cardassians. The Four
Lights. Yeah, Four Lights. Yeah, that was.
I don't remember what that's called. Anyway, yeah, he should have like aged after that.
But, well, I think those are his like top three traumatic events. One, the Inner Light, where he goes and there's a whole alternate life with deep loves, and then it has to like he had a bad maladaptive daydream and he had to go back to work. It's like,
exactly.
and, yeah, the Kardashian torture, Kardashian, and then the Borg, of course.
Oh yeah, like becoming Borg, and that one they touch back on more than the other two.
Right, they did.
But yeah, by and large, it's just like completely passed over. Like the episode right after he gets back from being tortured for weeks, he's just like, oh hey, regular mission that we're on here. What's going on today?
Be that nice, right?
Yeah, exactly. If only you could just like, okay, cool, next episode.
Well, I think that's something that like our media consumption is a comfort and probably a generally ideological maladaptive fantasy for that reason. That a structure with beginning, middle, and end, and then it resets when you watch the play again. I think it feeds into this like look of life that I've got a challenge and I'm going to overcome it, and then I win. It's like, yeah, but if you didn't die, there's tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And your body and your needs and your psyche of wants don't stop with the attainment of anything. You know, that ideological empty promise, it's over, and now what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. Was it as deeply satisfying? No. And no one will believe you. Like, well, whether it's money or losing weight, any external thing that's going to finish your third act, like, yeah, I'm going to get that. When it's gone, and you're like, whoa, shit.
Yeah. What do you do? I this friend of mine from like 20 years ago, I haven't talked to him forever, one time told me that there was a summer where he had everything he wanted, and it was the most miserable he'd ever been. Because it turns out the happiness came from the trying to attain the thing. Mm-hmm. And then once you have it, it's just like, oh, okay, what's next?
Oh God. And that's how it goes, right? Yeah. Like you could take it and be like, oh yeah, let's overthink it. You know, it's a philosopher Zizek, you know, paraphrasing Freud, dream realized is nightmare. Or you could just say, it's about the journey, not the, you know, destination. Yeah. Like, yeah. We were talking the other day about how trite you could take a deep, deep thought and really work through it, and it's going to have deep personal meaning. And when you come out on the other side, you end up with damned if you do, damned if you don't, some sort of aphorism.
Yeah.
Like, God damn it, they were right. I just couldn't see it then until I could work through it.
Yeah. And then all you have to show for it is this hokey saying.
Right, exactly.
And it's so frustrating because you can't impart the wisdom gained onto anybody else with just words.
Yeah, like it's like, really? No, really. Everything is everything. And it's like, well, I know that. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah. Do you though? Do you really?
Yeah. All the time.
That's kind of like how that's how I felt about therapy, honestly, and that's why I kind of gave it up. Is like it's just somebody providing you with that those stupid sayings, and you're just like, yeah, but I've tried that and it didn't work.
Right.
And it's because it doesn't come from sitting around and talking about it. I don't think. Not for me. Maybe somebody.
Yeah, not for me either. For me, all of this stuff, like language stuff, word stuff, it's just a external description. Like if there's somewhere inside that's like a center core, that's the me. Outer of that, around it in a band, that's where like language and experience are. And doesn't matter like what I say and do, I can't get these words into that core. It doesn't. Thoughts can emanate out, and I'll just suddenly know a thing to say, but I don't control what goes in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you really have to work from the inside out. Yeah, I think that's very true. Another hokey saying that we can cross stitch on something.
So frustrating. I've done so many story starts where I know how much work I put into structuring it at the onset and get, you know, a fourth of the way through writing it and realize, oh, that is that's Moana. That's Disney's Moana. I
had that happen to me. turned some assignment in for college, and the teacher was like, so that's just the plot of was it Mr. Somebody's Mandolin? Mm-hmm. I don't even remember. It's like, oh yeah, I did watch that movie, and I guess I heard it and then retold it.
Well,
it happens.
It really does. It's just frustrating for me how deep I'll think a thing is before realizing it's a truism. It's an adage. It's a children's nursery rhyme. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But some of those still, they'll haunt with me. Like, I don't care that it's for children. You know, row, row, row your boats deep. And it'll get me. It'll get me.
Yeah.
There's just something about it. You know, life is just a dream. It's just. It's
intense. That's a deep statement, for sure. It's just like all these things hidden in plain sight for you to find, and if you're not looking for them, yeah, it'll sound like just like a children's hokey saying. Mm-hmm. If you look a little deeper, there's a little something there, a little nugget for you.
Yeah, personal. You know, I don't know. It's one of those kind of hard quasi mental illness or paranormal kind of thoughts, but having the truth unlock on something, like when that mouth of knowledge, like say, okay, now you can understand it. It really is like having some object or a saying in your possession your whole life, and now because something changed in you, you can actually see the secret message, and it has nothing to do with what's ostensibly on that object or the way we use it. Yeah. And I think these kind of sayings are like that. And that's why they can pass over so easily, or you can have a false, big revelation that doesn't actually change your life, because when your self or body or whatever it is, whenever you're ready and you get it unlocks, that's when it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And there's no tutorial for that.
Nope. Nobody knows. Like, we're all just stumbling along from one of these moments to the next, and people try to give you roadmaps, but it's useless. That's their roadmap. That's not going to work for you. You're in a totally different country.
So how visual are your maladaptive daydreams? Like, are you telling it in a narrative where you mostly hear words? Are you kind of eyes closed or maybe eyes open and visualizing?
Eyes open and visualizing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why there's not much of a narrative going on in these. It's just visual and sensual, and just a string of little moments with no real point. Just things to soothe myself.
You ever been to a sensory deprivation tank? Or
no,
they call them a float spa now. They've kind of rebranded.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, it seems cool, but unfortunately, no, I haven't had that experience.
I think you'd like it. I mean, yeah. I like it. It's so perfectly dark, right? For those that don't know, it's a tank of water, super saturated with salt, so you can't float. The water and the air are the same temperature. It's light proof. It's not locked. You can get out anytime, but unless you're very large like I am, or you're in kind of a small location, generally speaking, you're not really going to touch the sides of the tank. You just kind of float on your back. Your entire body just kind of suspended at a natural floating point, and you do nothing. Put in earplugs, you don't even hear the gentle water, ripple as you kind of kick your leg. But it's a really interesting phenomena, because my ability to visualize really was different in those scenarios.
Oh.
Because I guess, like you, I'll daydream with my eyes open. I've had retail jobs. I know.
Right.
I've done some of my best daydreaming while ignoring a task. Fire me and give me 30 days of unemployment. I won't visualize anything because I'll be in a terrible panic. Mm-hmm. But when I'm working and have something to do, I can daydream almost anything. But you're having to spend a lot of energy to focus off of what you're actually seeing and hearing, right? Because you're going to go in, and when you're actually in that total no sensory distraction, I found it more difficult at first to like acclimate. I'm so used to pushing out the world, and so a combination of retina fatigue, where you see like just kind of color flashes. Now you've got no stimulation. Some weird bodily, like, how do I get comfortable in this thing where you're floating? There's nothing to press against. Then hearing just your own throat clicking. You're like, oh, that is loud. But once all that goes away and like you acclimate, well, it was, I wouldn't compare it ever to like a drug experience. Because if you've done really good psychedelics, it's like, no, this is nothing like that. But it's a fully immersive, experience. Like you're that absence of other competing stimuli is really interesting. I mean, I had some distinct sensations of rotating and then eventually rotating upward till I thought I was standing, and then rapid accelerations, decelerations, and
you felt like you're moving?
Like my inner ear was really confused.
Yeah. It is trying to find like which way to orient.
Right. Yeah. And then the mind's eye just kind of takes over.
Yeah. That's really cool. So what do you do, like an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I get too antsy and eventually I just like my fingers are pruning. I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Sure. Yeah. So is there like a tank spa that you go to?
They started popping up. I started seeing them around Seattle about 6 years ago. But before that, it was like you search for one, you'll find a website, and you go to somebody's house. They've just got a giant, like I went to this one, and this guy just had this like 10-foot by 10-foot tank in his house. He's like, okay, I'm going to leave, and you just go in and do your thing. And I'm like, okay. Didn't mind. It was still cool.
Yeah.
But now they're like, you go in, and it looks just like a spa. It smells like a spa. Somebody's got some aromatics going. The tanks don't look like this big black industrial box. They're like an egg. And if you want, you can set it up to display colorful lights, pump in perfumes, and maybe even play music of your choice. I'm like, that's not sensory deprivation. The more stimulation you're putting in there, why not put, Outlook alerts and maybe some news channel banners on the bottom, and okay, you're just ruining it by adding things in. The opposite.
Yeah, you're not gonna get the desired effect.
Go lay on your couch, like whatever. This seems like a waste, but whatever. If it helps them stay in business, I'm happy for it. Yeah. They came out and started being marketed as like sports recovery, or a thing for like, you work on screens all day. Let's have a minute away. And really no reference. You just do not find references on their websites to like psychedelic research or where some of these things were seen. Like I first heard of them, the movie Altered States.
Yeah, me too.
14 or 15. I was like, I'm gonna do that.
Is it as intense as the movie? Did you come out?
Well, no, because I'm not like loading up with a untested psychedelic.
Right.
From some mountainous region of Mexico, it's kind of like take me back to primitive man. I'm sober when I get in them. Not for any reason. I don't know. Like when taking psychedelics, I was always really careful who I was going to take them with, but sometimes they'd be like, all right, Joey's going to come with us, and Joey's going to show up. I've got all these movies that are trippy, and I got this thing that's trippy, and just like, dude, none of that's going to matter. Whatever you think we're going in here with this, we're not going to do any of that stuff. So, really.
No, you're going to find a paperclip, and that's going to be the most fascinating thing to you for like 4 hours. Like
you're not going to need a sensory tank. In fact, the chance of me getting really confused in there is pretty high. Don't think I would like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, psychedelics they're dicey, man. Sometimes I've had some bad experiences with them, just like really suicidal all of a sudden. Like
Mm.
LSD does that to me for some reason. Like I'm just like, fuck everything.
Yeah.
And then like some like really sketchy, like remember when you could buy like these off like technically legal stuff at like head shops and gas stations for like half a minute, they're immediately banned. Well, one of them, like this is the most intense experience I've ever had. I was just like dropping between dimensions like over and over, and every like 20 seconds I was like, oh fuck, like coming to a little bit and then dropping again, and that was like 3 hours of just that.
Yeah, God.
So yeah, I'm real careful now.
Almost all of those really tasty, you know, Harma or other, you know, fun drugs. We just really need to get back into therapeutic testing, because you can go pick some stuff. There's stuff less exotic than needing to grow mold on rye, and there's less exotic than needing to extract DMT. There's stuff just growing, but if you're not careful, you could have cardiac arrest or severe respiratory reactions. Yeah. I think that's like my concern around those, is that there's other stuff going on that it's hard to counter, but I think they're really useful chemicals.
Yeah. Done right. Yeah. And I think that's the part that gets ignored.
I think recreational could be like one way of doing it right. I'm not against it at all. You know, my experiences with psychedelics are like your dreams. They fall into like 3 or 4 categories. You know, recreational nonsense. We're gonna play a Mario Kart. I'm gonna have a great time. I'm not really looking to carry something lasting in my life. And then there's medicine, you know, curative, like something really important happened to me. And then there's like a more religious, you know, setting. So I'm not
in the recreation sense, like you still gotta like get the vibe right around you, you know. Yeah, done right doesn't necessarily mean like a laboratory setting.
Oh yeah. Get rid of anybody that's gonna fuck with you.
Yeah, that's number one.
I still have bad memories about people that fucked with me when I was on acid. And I don't know why they did it. But it was like really, really unpleasant. And this one guy, since it's almost New Year's, this is a New Year's story.
Just in time.
Sure I had taken both LSD and MDMA. Candy flipping at the time, that's what they called it. And, it was really nice. I was at a party in my friend's basement, which had been home to a lot of parties over the years, and I knew that at some point the number of people would winnow down. It would be just us, you know, group of friends that are spending the night over there. Yet somehow one mutual friend showed up with like 6 people in tow, and then they hung out for a while. We didn't know any of them, and then that mutual friend and 5 people left, leaving this one dude who didn't know anybody. And you know, we're all pretty intoxicated on something or another. He's real drunk. He starts wandering around my friend's house. Now my friends, all of us at this time were like mid-20s, you know, maybe some of us were early 30s. So not like kids, but, you know, obviously like their parents' house. And this dude at this party starts walking around upstairs, like, great pipes up here, and then, you know, like goes and wanders around bedrooms, and it's just like, whoa, back down here.
Yeah.
And then he regaled me with a very long story I didn't want to hear about DUIs as a truck driver, and I'm like, I don't want to know any of this.
Don't want to think about cops for driving.
At the time, I didn't quite yet have enough like impetus to say anything. Sometimes on psychedelics, it's kind of sheepish. Like, I don't really want to tell anybody I took this. I don't know why. Nothing to be guilty about. He's not going to turn me in.
Sure.
I don't want them to know.
Yeah. That's usually a big worry for some reason. Nobody can know.
Nobody. And then my friend eventually says, okay, dude, it's time. You know, it's like 11:20. It's time for you to go. And he throws a huge fucking fit. Who has a New Year's party where you can't crash over? Like, I don't know, lots of people. Like, you thought you were gonna spend the night because you were drinking here? Like, that's so presumptuous. Yeah. And then my friend asked me to help get rid of him. So stood up, like, okay, dude, you got to go. And he gets in my face. And I think, okay, we might be fighting.
Yeah, you have to fight a guy.
But he gets in my face and he's so loud, he's so close, and he's like spitting mad, just like telling me that I'm such an asshole. You are such an asshole. If I get another DUI, I'm done. My career's done. I'll go to jail, you know, all this stuff. That'll be on you. You are an asshole. And he just like really told me how worthless I was as I escorted him out, and we didn't have to fight. It was really nice. Yeah. He just left. I locked the door, and then for like 3 months, maybe 6 months, try to go to sleep. You are an asshole. You know, just like, no. I didn't believe him, but it just made me feel really unpleasant thinking about it.
Yeah, that's the kind of shit that like gets stuck in there.
Yeah.
You can't. There's no getting it out. That's just part of your mental landscape now. Yeah. You are an asshole.
I have a miniature him. I mean, he said it, you know, just that one night. And now, you know, whatever, 20 years later, I'm still thinking about him, letting him tell me that again. Me wearing a him puppet.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to see your puppet theater someday.
I think that could be arranged. We'll put on a presentation. I don't know if it's suitable for episode 0. You know, we've got standards on this broadcast. We'll see.
No, I like how punk rock you're being about this whole thing. Just like no preparation. We're just gonna walk in. We're gonna start talking about shit and see what happens.
Well, that's it again. You know, I think I've tried to say it a couple of times, and I still don't have like a good blurb about it, so it can't be. I don't even know how to recite it.
Yeah. Maybe it doesn't need to be a blurb.
The best feeling in my life, outside of like bright points, you know, like you know, birth of your children, or you know, when you won the lottery, or one of those bright things. But like the best points I can think of in my life have been shooting the shit with my friends. And we're not even like doing a project. We're not like, and then we mobilized and radicalized. It's like, no, those are fun too. But I really, really like talking to people and like my friends. And it always feels really organic. And I'm not even putting like, I am a master conversationalist. I know how to keep like, no, it makes me really happy. Yeah. And I wanted to share with other people, like, this is how good it feels. And it's interesting how some people are reacting like that. Like, that does feel really good. Like, I know.
Yeah. I definitely miss that. Like, it's been a really long time. Because like a few years back, I cut like a lot of people out of my life who just were doing me good. And then I moved, and then my best friend moved. And now there's nobody that I just like have that kind of chill out, hang out kind of situation with, because I don't know anybody here where I live now, and anybody I'd want to keep like long distance. I just stopped talking to them like 6 or so years ago. So
I mean,
this is cool.
Totally virtualized, and I didn't even know if I could. Like, do I even have enough chill? Remember? Well, I mean, okay, if you have distance-based relationships or anything where you're not going to bump into somebody,
right?
It's very easy to be like, all right, block, and it's fucking over. You don't have to give. They don't have to give. Yeah. You know, it can just be over that quickly. Like, I don't know. I think we had a similar thing. Like when you're a kid in like a really rural place, that's the kids that are available to play with, and
those are your friends. Congratulations.
You're not work stuff out, and it teaches you how to compromise and also how to hate at a young age. But
yeah,
I think there is like a forcing function.
Yeah.
I think is a lot harder when you can literally mute or turn off anybody that disagrees with you on the first blush.
Yeah.
Like, we're not friends anymore. They kind of made a low-key thing that offended me, and that's a microaggression. It's like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But also, like, you can give people a little bit of leeway, wiggle room.
I try. I don't know. I didn't know if I could. So it's been interesting to test that and try to do that, because I've been so extreme in icing people out. You know, I'm really afraid of being left, and I'm afraid of people being close, and I don't even have like a particularly big secret I'm hesitating to tell people. I just don't like them close. It scares me. It makes me uncomfortable. So let's find some way to terminate this friendship
before it gets too dangerous.
So it's really hard, and it's not even dangerous in any kind of tangible way. Like, oh, so dangerous that they might like steal money from me, or say something mean about me, or post my secrets. My secrets are so boring, but it's just still dangerous to me, like on my emotional level.
Yeah,
I can't even handle that.
Yeah,
it's weird. So this experiment has been part of that. Like, can I still hang out with people? Does it still feel good? My friends and I talk in a unrehearsed manner for an hour, and it feel like 5 minutes. Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm excited to see more of these, and I hope you'll have me back on at some point.
I think we need to, because there's a lot of stuff that we work on that I think we should talk about. But we
didn't talk about a single one of like our
no, and I think that's appropriate. I think we've worked together on some like 3 or 4 projects. We advise on others. We've been friends for several years, and this is the first time face-to-face we've ever talked about Star Trek, something we both love and have memorized and seen every single episode of every show, and somehow we never talked about that once. So this was important.
And I hope that the people who aren't so much into Star Trek will bear through our little geek out there.
They need to know. They do need to know. If they're not into it, they need to see there's other ways to look at it than they had been doing.
It's true. There's a lot there. Yeah. I have thoughts.
All right, Lindsay. I think we're at time.
Okay.
Thank you so much for this. This was healing and a lot of fun.
Good. Yay, me too. Yeah. Anytime you want to do this again, just let me know.
Be good.
Okay. You too.
Bye.
Bye.